Finding your next home before your current one sells sounds like a good problem to have until you realize you may need to qualify for two mortgages. Selling first can feel safer, but that creates a different risk. Your home closes, your belongings are packed, and you still have nowhere permanent to go. That is where homeowners get trapped. The wrong sequence can lead to rushed decisions, duplicate housing costs, last-minute financing problems, or a chain of delayed closings involving several families. In this video, I'll walk you through the 5 most common ways to coordinate a sale and purchase. You'll see where each approach creates leverage, where it creates risk, and how one overlooked loan issue nearly disrupted 3 connected transactions. As you listen, think about which matters most in your move: financial certainty or control over where you land. Your answer will narrow your options quickly. Let's start with the approach that usually creates the least financial exposure. Option 1, sell first, then buy. You sell your current home, complete the closing, and begin shopping with the proceeds available. Financially, this is often the cleanest route. You know how much equity you received from the sale, your old mortgage has been paid off, which may make qualifying for the next loan a lot easier. Since you're not carrying 2 properties, your monthly obligations remain more predictable. For homeowners who prioritize financial certainty, selling first can remove a significant amount of risk. The trade-off happens after closing. So suppose your home sells quickly, but the right replacement property doesn't appear. Temporary housing may become necessary. Your furniture could go into storage, and moving twice adds both cost and disruption. More importantly, the pressure starts to build. Every week in a rental or someone else's home can make an average property feel more appealing than it should. Instead of asking whether the home is right for the next several years, you may start asking how quickly you can move into it. Selling first protects your finances, but it can weaken your patience. One way to reduce that risk is to research your target area before listing. Know which neighborhoods fit into your budget, what inventory typically looks like, and how often suitable homes actually become available. You do not need to select the exact property yet. You should understand whether your expectations match the market before your home goes live. Option 2, buy first, then sell. Now, buying first reverses the pressure. You can wait for the right home, complete the purchase, and move without coordinating your entire life around a buyer's closing date. Once your current home is vacant, preparing it for sale may also become easier. Repairs can be completed without working around a schedule. Painting, staging, cleaning, and showings become less disruptive. A vacant or carefully staged home may present better than one filled with moving boxes and half-packed rooms. That convenience comes with financial exposure. For a period of time, you may be responsible for 2 mortgages, 2 insurance policies, additional utilities, property taxes, maintenance, and unexpected repairs on either property. Your lender must also confirm that you qualify while both homes are counted against you. Before choosing this route, ask for the actual numbers. Don't settle for a vague statement that you should be able to carry both properties. Find out what the combined monthly cost would be. Calculate how long you can comfortably sustain it. Then consider what happens if your current home takes 30, 60, or 90 days longer to sell than expected. Buying first tends to work best when you have strong reserves, reliable income, considerable equity, and access to a financial strategy designed for this transition. It can give you more control over your next home, but only when the carrying costs will not force you to make a poor decision on the sale. Option 3, making a contingent offer. Now, a contingent offer allows you to purchase your next home only if your current property sells. From your perspective, this limits the risk of owning 2 homes at once. The seller sees something different. Imagine receiving 2 offers. One buyer can move forward without selling another property. The second buyer needs their home to sell before your transaction can close. Even when the price is identical, the first offer usually appears safer. That is why a home sale contingency can become difficult in a competitive market, especially when the property is new to the market or already attracting significant interest. The strategy becomes more realistic when inventory increases, the seller has been waiting longer for an offer, or your current home is already under contract with a qualified buyer. The details matter. A contingency tied to a home that has not been listed creates much more uncertainty than one tied to a sale that has passed inspections and appraisal. Your offer may also include deadlines, proof of your existing transaction, or language that allows the seller to continue marketing the home. Contingent offers can work, but they must be positioned honestly and supported by a clear plan. You're asking the seller to accept additional moving parts, so the rest of your offer needs to reduce uncertainty wherever possible. Option 4, use temporary housing. Temporary housing rarely sounds appealing when you first discuss it. Most people don't want to pack, move into a rental, and repeat the process a few months later. In some situations, however, that inconvenience purchases something valuable: time. You can sell your current property, receive the proceeds, and remove the pressure to coordinate two closings. Once that transaction is complete, you can shop for a stronger financial position without wondering whether every delay will disrupt your sale. Your temporary solution might be a furnished rental, a short-term lease, extended stay housing, or time with family. This option makes the most sense when inventory is limited, your search area is narrow, or you would rather tolerate one extra move than compromise on the home you purchase. It can also help when you're relocating from another state and need time to understand the area before choosing a neighborhood. A city may look perfect during an online search, but feel completely different once you experience the commute, traffic patterns, community layout, and the daily routine. Temporary housing gives you room to make that decision with experience instead of urgency. Would you accept two moves if it gave you more control over the next property, or would the disruption outweigh the benefit? Let me know in the comments, because your answer usually reveals how much flexibility you actually have. Option 5, coordinate both closings. This is the outcome many homeowners hope to create. Your existing home sells, your next purchase closes, and you move directly from one property into the other. When the timing works, it can reduce storage costs, temporary housing expenses, and disruption. The challenge is that your purchase may depend on your sale, while your buyer's financing depends on several other people completing their responsibilities on time. Inspections must be finished, appraisals need to arrive, repair negotiations have to be resolved, loan conditions must be cleared, and closing documents need to be ready when promised. A delay in one file can travel through the entire chain. That is exactly what happened in a recent transaction. My client was selling her home to a buyer. At the same time, she was purchasing another property from a seller who was also buying a home. 3 transactions were now connected. Fortunately, the buyer purchasing my client's home was renting. They didn't need to sell another property first, which prevented a 4th transaction from being added to the chain. Early in the process, my client chose to work with a family friend for financing. You are always entitled to select your own lender. The important question is whether or not that lender is identifying problems early enough to solve them without threatening your closing. After my first conversation with this lender, I had concerns about whether the file was going to be managed proactively. Those concerns became real just before closing. A debt-to-income issue surfaced that should have been addressed much earlier. To keep the loan moving, my client suddenly needed nearly $80,000 to pay off debt. My client could not purchase her new home until the buyer closed on her existing property. The seller, on the other side, couldn't complete their move until our transaction closed. One unresolved financing issue had placed 3 households on hold. Extensions had to be negotiated, closing dates became uncertain, and every person involved was waiting to learn whether the entire chain would collapse. My client was ultimately able to produce the funds, the loan closed, each transaction moved forward, and everyone reached their destination. It worked, but the final days were far more stressful and risky than they needed to be. That experience reinforced an important point. When several transactions depend on one another, the lowest advertised rate or the cheapest fee is not the only consideration. You also need professionals who communicate clearly, review the difficult parts of the file early, and address potential obstacles before they turn into emergencies. A delayed problem rarely stays contained to one person. Should you sell first or buy first? There's no universal answer, because the right sequence depends on your finances, available equity, local market conditions, and tolerance for uncertainty. Selling first may give you greater financial clarity, but you could face temporary housing or feel pressured during the search. Buying first gives you more control over the property you choose, although the overlapping costs may become uncomfortable if your sale takes longer than expected. A contingent offer can reduce financial exposure, but the seller has to accept the added risk. Temporary housing creates an extra move, yet it may protect you from buying the wrong home under pressure. Coordinating both closings can produce the smoothest move when every part of the transaction remains on schedule. It also creates the greatest dependence on lenders, agents, inspectors, appraisers, escrow, and every party connected to the chain. Before you list or begin touring homes, answer 4 questions. How much equity will you have available? Could you qualify for or comfortably carry both properties? How long could you tolerate temporary housing? What would happen if either closing were delayed by 2 weeks? Those answers will tell you more than a generic rule about whether you should buy or sell first. If you are planning to move and trying to decide which sequence fits your situation, schedule a consultation before you commit to either transaction. A clear plan established early can help you avoid duplicate costs, rushed decisions, and financial surprises that appear when there's very little time left to solve them. Subscribe to the channel for practical guidance on buying, selling, and relocating to South Orange County. Before you go, tell me which risks concern you more, carrying two homes or selling before you know where you're going next. Your answer may be the first clue to which strategy fits you best.